In today's world, we are increasingly dependent on technology. Our business and personal lives rely on it, but as you've probably noticed, it's unreliable. Our computers are slow, so we end up squinting at smartphones and tablets. The jokers we pay to fix our stuff have no clue what they're doing. We live in constant fear that something's going to happen to our personal data. So we're scared into paying for fake protection that proves useless when disaster strikes. Update attacks, fake Wi-Fi, cloud control, intelligent, successful people feel intimidated by the chaos and think it's somehow their fault. If they only knew what the industry was doing to them, they'd get torches and pitchforks. If only we had someone to explain it all in plain English so we can start protecting ourselves. Oh wait, we do! It's the Computer Exorcist Podcast with your host, Mark Anthony Arena.
From the Wallace Memorial microphone in my home office overlooking the can of worms in downtown Rochester, New York, this is the Computer Exorcist Podcast. Mark Anthony Arena bringing you the second half of our discussion with Kenley Vogt. Welcome back. And I want to ask you about, we're going to finish up your extensive bio. I've never had a guest on where it took a whole episode just to discuss his bio. I'm learning stuff.
Well, that shows you how old I
am. But just unbelievable. You're a titan of industry here, and I don't know why you live down the street from me, and you should be in Hollywood or something, next to Spielberg, next to his house. So yeah, I mean, last time we talked about how you worked for IBM and Kodak back when they were around, and AT&T and digital equipment. And when I met you, you were working at local internet providers, which that in and of itself I thought was impressive, just working with the local cable company, actually the phone company, then the cable company, then the fiber optic company, right? You've done all three of them, right?
Yeah.
That's nuts. And so can you speak to that? Before we go any farther.
Yeah, so I mean, it was a natural evolution, right? The phone company started to get into data, and they had some fiber optic networks, and they ultimately had that SONET equipment, and you could connect up Ethernet to it. Nortel was the equipment manufacturer, and they had Ethernet cards that would slide in there. Now it's poor use of bandwidth because you got 100 meg of Ethernet running, and a port that's good for 155 meg.
Okay, but
right,
still,
the OC3 port.
But
it was something. It was a start.
And right, then you were doing 1.5 megabit when we last left you, and now you're doing 100 megabit. Okay.
Yeah. So then we got into that, and then they started laying in fiber, and they want to take advantage of that. The cable company simultaneously started putting in the coax systems, and breaking up television bandwidth in 6 meg increments to deliver internet. And
so
they also wanted
each channel, like each traditional TV channel, would give you 6 megabit of bandwidth.
Yep. So
I didn't know that number.
The coax out in the street's good for about a gig.
Okay, so if I said, all right, I don't want television, I just want internet, and I want your best internet cable company, then they would say, okay, fine, the best you could do is a gigabit. Wow. And still, right, most of us are doing 100 megabits, so that's a tenth of that. And I tell people, most human households don't need more than a quarter of a tenth of that. So 25 megabit, that's totally fine. You don't need 1,000, you're fine with 25. So don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
And it's shared at the end of the day, right? So, you're sharing it with your closest 50 neighbors. So,
and it's always more than enough. It's totally fine. I'd be happy with the rest of my life with cable internet, really. I think we're hitting a plateau. Like, notice how, sure, when HD television came out, everyone went wild about it. But now, I mean, and mainly because of the flat form factor, right? It was a flat screen now. But also it was somewhat of a major leap as far as quality. Nowadays, we go from HD television to 4K, which is 2 times or 4 times the quality, but people are jaded, and we're after 4K, humans can't see anything better than that. So 4K television is a plateau. You don't need anything better than a 4K television, and most people are fine with a normal HD television. I know I am.
Yeah, and I think, that the video is kind of interesting. It's gone through its transition too, right? You went from, regular cable providers, 96 channels or so. And then once you start streaming, you get something else that changes, right? And in the back in the old days of cable, I could tell you just by the demographics of a neighborhood that you tend to join a stream that your neighbors are watching, which is kind of crazy because you think of all the channels, and yet the neighbors and you probably share a common interest, and you're watching about the same 6 channels, believe it or not.
What? So you could tell,
yeah.
If you worked at the cable company, you could tell, like, hey, those people in Mark's neighborhood in Pittsford are all watching, let's say, the football game, and those people in the inner city are all watching some other channel. Like that?
Yeah. Yeah, like that by neighborhood, yeah.
What?
It's kind of weird. Yeah, it was kind of weird. So then you get involved.
Way, I miss when I was a little kid walking into the cable company. They had those fake wood grain cable boxes that were so cool.
Oh yeah,
with a
little selector switch. Yeah,
they had a wall of TVs. And they had the wood grain ones with the clunky mechanical selector switches. Then later on, my grandpa had a wood grain cable box that was like a normal cable box with a remote and a little digital number thing display. But that was so fascinating. I'd walk in with my parents whenever they'd need to get equipment, and there was a wall of TVs, and they had the Disney Channel, which was like unobtainium back then. And wow, I used to live for those 2 weeks a year when Disney Channel displayed for free on my TV.
Yeah, I mean, so think about that for a minute, right? So now you're getting a kind of it's a transport system that's based right. You get a video feed, and then subscribers get to watch it, right?
Right. Then one-way street.
Right. Then comes the internet, and we get streaming. And with streaming, you get a couple of advantages. You get long tail. That's the ability to watch a show that normal people wouldn't watch. It's actually specific to your interest, right? And there's not necessarily a lot of viewers for that.
Yeah, like customized, I call it narrowcasting, right? Where it's niche content, niche.
Yeah, it's not a broadcast, it's niche, right? And then you also get time shifting built in too, because you get to watch what you want to watch when you want to watch it.
Yeah, I was up at 3 this morning watching a show, and it's like, I love that.
Right.
I love that.
Right. Mm-hmm. So the cable company goes from being a cable provider to eventually just a giant ISP serving up streams, right? And they're trying to build their relevance in that space, but that's kind of the natural evolution. And then in the commercial side, they've got a lot of fiber out in the street, so they can connect up a building to a node and take advantage of the fiber with what they call coarse wave division multiplexing, where they give it its own frequency of light. They shoot it back to the head end, and then they connect that up to the internet. So you get dedicated internet.
Wait a minute. Hold on a second. Multiplexing. Wait a minute. So I've heard of the term multiplexing where you can do several signals over the same wire, right?
Right. And so in optical multiplexing, you do the same thing. It's just multiple frequencies of light.
Wait a minute. So through a glass...
But there's a limit to it. You can't get more than 64 channels because there's a point, right, where the light becomes what they call coherent or white light. You put all the colors together and you'll lose it. So they break it up into about... Yeah, so they break it up to about 64 different frequencies. There's about 128... There's about 128 frequencies you can run on a big optical switch.
Wait, that's incredible. So you're saying that if I have a piece of fiber, I just assumed it was one white light and it was just digital binary pulses. But you're saying you could do 64 channels and you could broadcast, let's say, red channel, blue channel, green channel, turquoise channel, sienna channel, right? Well, your Crayola crayons, and that's incredible. That's news to me. So you can now utilize that 64 times over to 64 clients.
Right. Wow. Right. And then, like dark fiber customers, they used to get 2 fibers, one for transmit, one for receive. And then it got down to the point, right, where there's GBIXs out there that can run a single well, they run one channel for they call bidirectional
Mhm.
GBIXs, and you can run one channel for your transmit and the other one for the receive. And you just need one fiber.
So one piece of glass, one piece of fiber, but it can do a transmit on red channel and receive on blue channel or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's incredible. This
Yeah,
is nuts.
and the cost of those optics will come way down. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
a little plug for my hometown of Fairport, right? But Corning Glass is over there on O'Connor Road, and that's what they work on. It's the
Oh, I
optical
didn't know
transmission and
I was
receiving
about to.
devices. Yeah,
Really, I was about to do a plug for Corning, but I didn't know they had a location right here.
yeah. They got some fine optical engineers there. That's what they work on, and I'm. We use Corning glass where I work, and I'll tell you what,
Good.
it's great. In fact, we
Good.
just came back from the Corning Museum over this weekend. I took my granddaughters down there
Oh,
so they can make a pumpkin.
oh, that's so
and
cool.
and of course I had to stop off and see the fiber optic display. Right? I mean, it hasn't changed
Sure.
much, but I like that display. That's
That,
great.
I'm.
And then they show light pumps. Where you can throw the light about every 80 kilometers or so. You have to regenerate the service. And
Oh, so you have to receive what's going on, like an actual active digital
yeah,
machine that receives the signal and retransmits it.
yeah. And the way how it does is really really unique. It goes into a 1 meter cable made out of erbium, which is a rare earth,
Hmm.
and another prism shoots a new laser beam in there, and it accelerates and starts to vibrate in that 1 meter at the same rate as what it just received, and then it pumps it. It's a light pump, and it pumps it down the fiber again for another 80 kilometers. And what they
Wow.
showed on the display, they said they can get up to 120 kilometers.
That's nuts. So
So
it isn't
yeah,
necessarily like a digital computer that processes the
it's all
info. It is
optic.
just a physical optical dumb machine, so to speak.
Yeah, it's not even a machine really. It's really just kind of a matter of physics of combining light and getting it to vibrate at the same frequencies and then sending it out. So it doesn't care what protocols are on it or whatever's going on. Doesn't
Right, I
care.
love that.
Just
I love dumb machines. They don't care about protocol. They're not spying on you. Wow. That's
yeah,
nuts. I'm learning something, man, and I'm so glad we're using local fiber made here in Corning, New York. So for folks who are out of town, Corning, New York is the only town in New York State that still has any life or business or prosperity. I went there once and I was shocked. I didn't get shot at all.
yeah.
Uh,
It's a nice community, that's for sure.
and that was a plug for the other show I co-host, which is Flyover Plates. So if you like Mark and you like my snarky humor, check out Flyover Plates. All right, we got less than 20 minutes left here. I want to talk about your book. So
Yeah.
it sounds like you've led an incredible life. And why did you write the book? And why did it take you so long?
Yeah, I was shocked. I started this time last year. It's taken about a year, and it's been kind of off and on because it's kind of a side gig, right?
Sure, that's
So
about right. It
you know,
takes me about 2-3 years or whatever to write a really involved book. Yeah.
yeah. And then then getting and I think the illustrator had his part done relatively quick. I'll give Don a plug here. Don O'Keefe did my work for me. He's been a graphic artist and an art director for about 50 years at one of the local television stations. And yeah, he does terrific work. It's absolutely I couldn't have done this without him.
Wow.
And he's helped out a couple other book publishers and authors. So he's really good at this stuff. But anyway, I was one day I was listening to a podcast from a lady that was from Japan, and she was talking about the questions the kids want to know about AI.
Really?
And yeah, and the top five were they want to know, could AI be their friend? How does AI work?
Mm-hmm.
Can I trust the AI results? Will AI replace my teacher? And how can I use AI in my classroom work, right? So those are their questions. And it got me thinking. I thought, well, you know what? I reckon AI was kind of the same for schools. Remember back in the old days of calculators?
Yeah.
Students had calculators, things like the Bomar Brain and stuff like that, but they couldn't bring them into the classroom. They were told not to bring them in.
And
but
I
you
do
had
appreciate my math teacher for forbidding us from using calculators initially, because he wanted us to do math in our heads, and that serves me every day. I can do math in my head, do rough estimates, anything.
That's absolutely imperative. But once you get starting to do scientific stuff,
right,
you kind of need a scientific calculator, right? And about the mid '70s, the colleges were starting to allow students to bring scientific calculators in. In fact, they told people, don't invest in an old linear slide rule. Get out of the analog world and start using a calculator. And it was either a TI or HP at the time.
And might I add that I hope that this AI nonsense is the same way, where the teachers say, look, you have to use your own human creativity, please. Then do the AI later, but please think for yourself. Put a think sticker on your forehead.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of where I was going with this, right? Was I knew that the teachers, the kids are going to start using it before anybody else, right? And they are. I mean, I think I saw a study.
Teachers, that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. And so the schools are now struggling. Like, how do they detect AI written papers, right? They've got to build platforms to take a look at the work and all that.
Right. I remember in Spanish class, one of my colleagues used the really early Babel fish in the late 90s to translate his Spanish paper. It was horribly done, and there were some obvious signs that it was used by Babel fish, where Babel fish would just give up on a word and plop the English word in there if it didn't know. And I had to tell my teacher, like, hey, just so you know, there's this new technology, and this kid over here is using it.
Yeah, exactly. So my thought is that I wanted to write a book based for kids. It could be given, bought by a grandparent or a parent, and show the kids how to take something that's AI and convert it and put it in their own words and make it part of them. And I think that was really the key to what the book was about and how I came about with it.
So you're catching them off at the pass. Like, hey, look, they're going to go find this thing anyway. Like, think about my generation, right? My friends and I got into computers. My parents didn't know what they were. They didn't know what we were doing on them. They didn't know what to tell us, right? And they should have emphasized things like safety and look out for meeting strangers and that sort of thing. But you're right. So they're so far ahead, and at least so you're coming in here with this book giving them basic fundamental concepts like we talked about last time, where most computer guys don't have basic fundamental concepts. So it's so important to give them that and warn them, hey, look,
Yeah, and I think that's the other side of this, right? At the end of the day, is that we want them to do their creativity. Like they got to structure the prompts, and so they get something that's creative, and then they got to go in and edit it and fix it up so it fits them. I think that's really the key. So that way it literally has their own voice, right? Yeah. I think that's. I mean, you've written a book, and you got another one coming, and I've got a couple in my head. And the trick of writing, of being an author, right, is to get it in your voice.
Mm-hmm. Get it in your right. Like, and I'll say, my buddy's wife said this, and she plopped it on the reviews, the Amazon reviews of my first book a couple years ago. She said, if you know Mark and you read this book, it sounds just like he talks in real life.
And that's how you want it to be, right? I mean, if you were telling a story or whatever you're doing, you want it to sound like you. You don't need it to sound like GPT, I think that's the key.
Right. You want it to sound like, I love that. You want it to sound like you. That's a key. And I'm going to write that down for So,
and a lot of authors lose that, right? Because even like when you're writing a paper in school and stuff, right? We tend to use a vocabulary that's higher than what we speak in.
Great point. And I use a lot of keywords and a lot of jokes and a lot like recurring shticks, right? So and that's another thing. If you like, every time So I'm a huge fan of Borat, right? And when he was
Yeah.
he was doing the talk show circuit to promote his movies years ago in '06, I think it was, and he would go on and he would say the same 5 or 6 jokes, give or take, and he would kind of with very little what's the word, variance. And but I do that, right? I go on someone's talk show, I say the same jokes, or even in my personal life, I say the same jokes. I'll say, hey, if for some reason you like me, you can always check out my podcast.
Yeah. I used to write these. They were like work orders, right? And they were job packages,
Oh, yeah.
and technicians. Yeah, I'd type up all the stuff, and then the technicians would go follow the instructions. And of course, asking a skilled technician to follow instructions is kind of impossible, right? I mean, you have to be careful how you write it, and you got to be concise. But I used to embed jokes in there and stuff just to see if they got to that part. Because if they did, they'd laugh, and I get a phone call saying, "Hey, Kenny, I got to this part. I was supposed to install this, and I saw this. This is funny."
That's right. You gotta make it fun. You gotta make it fun. Like when I worked for a year doing corporate tech support, that reminded me. I would put little funny things in there, and then the bosses would yell at me. But yeah, that's a great point.
But the end users were looking at it. That's the key, because people are just inundated with all kinds of information today.
Right,
and if something's hard to read, they won't stick with it, right?
Yeah, and Don Geneva told me this. He said, Mark, the reason why you and I have the same writing style, and shout out to him, his book is called Don't Be Taken for a Ride, and he teaches people how to avoid crooked car dealers. But it's fun. He said, Mark, adults need fun when they learn something. They're sick of the dry stuff, especially with kids too, but especially adults. They need to have it be fun. Otherwise, they're not going to pick up your book. And that's what sets us apart.
Yeah, and like I say, to use a standard vocabulary, right? Because like they used to joke, Hemingway never drove anyone to the dictionary. He used standard vernacular.
Oh, that's interesting. And
so like yeah. So when I write something and I use an acronym, I try to spell out the acronym so people know. Because it's very easy in this business to just assume everybody's on board. We used to joke. I used to sell computers in between running a restaurant, going to college, and then I sold computers before I became a network engineer. And one of the things they used to say is how long does it take before a computer salesman becomes arrogant? And it's about 2 weeks. It's as they get on the learning curve, and all of a sudden they think, they start spouting out I don't know, I call it technical Tourette's. They just throw out acronyms. and the person walking in the door doesn't know anything, right? They're fresh. They're newbies. They're coming in. They don't understand. And you have to treat everybody like, this is where we start. And then if they show signs like they're understanding or they need to speed it up, then you just go ahead and, then you can go into your regular spiel with them, I guess. But, if they're technically savvy.
Yeah, and again, that's a huge concept with me is, hey, computer guys, look, just because the person you're talking to can't keep up with your completely arbitrary man-made industry, right? Like economics is totally man-made, and so is the PC industry. Just because someone can't keep up with your treadmill doesn't mean they're stupid. All my clients are intelligent, successful people, right? I mean, heck, you and I spent an hour just now, you and I, who are supposed to be the authorities in the computer industry, we spent an hour trying to get this video call going so we could record this show. So how do any of these people stand a chance? Yesterday, I had a client who was a super intelligent, successful lawyer, and she couldn't figure out how to do her Teams meeting for court, and she was frustrated. And I had explained, look, this is all garbage. None of it's designed to work. Don't feel bad, blah, blah, blah. And it's not my fault, right? And that's the other thing is my personal challenge in my career is, oh boy, they're going to think it's my fault because I'm the salesman, right? I'm the guy who installed it, but it's sloppy garbage. Right? If you were a ladder salesman or a scaffold salesman, but the stuff you sold was made out of balsa wood, it's not your fault.
Right. And so I got a little side story, right? So my granddaughter, she's 8 years old. She comes over at 6:30 2 Sundays ago, and she can't get into Roblox, which is her favorite game.
Yeah.
So we sat down with her and said, "Did you connect to the internet?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm already on the what we call CraftNet. She's already on the right Wi-Fi. She left her house. She's in this house. She's turned on the right Wi-Fi.
You're giving her
And
the
then she
proper
told me,
troubleshooting.
well, she had it, and then she said, "I've already turned off my iPad and turned it back on."
Brilliant.
And I said, "Oh, okay."
That's
So then I go and look at Roblox, and I can't get in because I have a mirrored account of hers to make sure nobody, or I understand who she's chatting with and whatever's going on in that space for safety, right? So I'm watching it too, and I go in and I can't get in, and then I showed her. I use a tool that'll show me server status. So not only do I get the network speed, but you go over a little bit and you can see the popular servers. I typed in Roblox server, and you can see they were down.
Okay.
And there was all these people couldn't get in, right? I mean, it was like 226,000 users that were blocked out. Well, this was
established that, yeah.
Yeah, this was the start of the DNS failure. That was happening in AWS land that took half the internet down.
Yeah,
but we just got here first trying to get into a game, right? And then about 2 days later, they were able to heal whatever they had going on in their servers, and we were able to finally get in. But it took 2 days. But she was right in on it. I mean, she's definitely embraced technology, and it's a part of her like it's air.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it just is.
Yeah,
that iPad is just hers.
Yeah, you dispelled the uncertainty for her by showing her the step-by-step troubleshooting steps. That's incredible. And, like you said, right, like, in high school, I gobbled this up, right? I never played sports. Yeah. I never had hobbies. Like, this was my hobby. I gobbled up and learned as much as I could about my PC. I was never a programmer, right? I mean, I did programming classes in school, and it wasn't for me. But I learned so much. And then, actually, it was a good thing, because it made me into this bridge guy that I am today, right? Where I do the IT stuff, which is bridge between computer and people. So in the last 5 minutes here, tell me a little bit more about your book and how we can find it.
Yeah, so the book's going to be released. It's in pre-production right now. A landing page has been created. The website is Kenley, Kenley, Vogt.com. Yeah. And they'll be coming live shortly, and then they can pre-order, and it'll direct them eventually to Amazon and Ingram to where they can get the book.
Oh, I'm glad you're using Ingram. Did I tell you about them? I'm so glad you're using Ingram.
Yeah, no, you mentioned it, and I followed up with it. That's terrific. I mean, it's really worked out.
It means your book is not only available on Amazon, but it's also available in all the bookstores in the world.
Yep, and then I'll just, as I close, I just want to leave everybody with some thoughts about AI right as we go forward.
Yeah.
So we've gone through a complete cycle, right, where you got the mainframe era, you got centralized computing and private networks. Then we got PCs, which are distributed computing, and we're using a public internet, right? So in the cloud era, right now, right, we got centralized AI with internet access. That's exactly where we are now. And I'll tell you, the future is going to be edge AI. And that's right where we have distributed intelligence, right? We have internet connectivity.
So the distributed meaning the AI runs on my computer like my buddy Jamari did.
Run on your phone or your computer, exactly. And that's to help offload some of those costs of the huge data centers of running power and light. You're going to pick up the cost of that, right?
I'm glad, actually. I'm very glad, because it means they can't control all that centrally. So I'm very glad that that's the case, where they're lazy, they're looking to save money, so they're going to plop it on our computers. Good.
Yeah, so it's the same pattern. It's just being repeated, right? History repeats itself, but not exactly.
Expansion and contraction.
Yeah, and so that's what I think the future is going to be, and we'll probably see that in the next couple of years. I mean, there's already people putting their toe in the water for it, but I think that's at the end of the day, that's going to be the model, right? And they're going to be distilled models, so they kind of know what you're searching for, what you're really, it's tailored to you.
Oh, so one of them might be a scientific model for someone, and one of them might be a what do I do with my life model, and one might be a recipes and diet model, right?
So and I have this vision, right? Here's a product concept, but I'm envisioning something like an app that you run, and you type in your question, and it uses an AI engine to decide what type of question is this a math problem? Is this is this a verbal problem? What is it? And then it goes to one of the engines and builds a prompt, kind of like what I'm doing, right? Builds a prompt and then takes that over to another engine, drops that prompt in, kind of like screen scraping, grabs that, drops that in, and out comes the answer, and then you send that back to the end user.
Wow.
So it's making those decisions for you about what you're looking for and how to best craft the prompt for you. So you don't have to go hire a prompt engineer. You don't have to go learn prompt engineering yourself or what the right thing is. Use the engine to generate that. I mean, today I do it in my head, 3 steps, like what engine am I going to use? What kind of problem is this? What engine I'm going to use? And then I go to another engine and build a prompt. And then I go take it over the engine I'm going to use, right?
So
well, I don't see what it can't possibly be.
It talks to his colleagues, basically, and says, hey, this guy's got a problem. What should I do for him?
Yeah, and I think that would be kind of, I mean, it would replace me, but that's okay.
That's nuts. Well, look, you've made AI a little less scary for me. I still am going to warn people about all the downfalls, but you've made it less scary for me, and you're making it less scary for kids so that they know what they're getting into. And tell me the name of the book again, and give me a summary of the book again before we go.
Yeah. So it's God, this is bad. I just forgot where I was at. Isn't this awful? It's the Adventures of AI and the Little Learners. So it's about these kids. They're a group of kids, and they discovered AI, and they started to use it for their project. The teacher comes and says, "Hey, I got an AI in the classroom, and she's going to help me. She's an assistant, and she's going to help me, and she's going to find if any of this stuff's been AI generated." And of course, the kids get all nervous, and there's a little blurb there because kids don't even know what plagiarism is, and so we discussed a little bit about what plagiarism is, and then she says, put it in your own words, and they hand in their project, and it goes through the chatbot that the teacher has, and it passes. It's their own work, and everybody lives happily ever after. So, but it answers those questions in the various phases of the book about what AI is. Is it really friendly? It is a friend. And how it works, and can you trust the results? It talks a little bit about the hallucinations it can have, and that kids have to double check, right? You got to fact check.
Right, then just warn them, hey, this is possible, just double, at least if they know that.
Yeah, and then, how to use AI in the classroom. So it's for a diverse audience.
Yeah, it's just like we were talking about with calculators. I foresee a time where it's like, okay, fine. Yes, you want to think for yourself and do it for yourself. However, when you do need to do a web search for something, or when you do need that, at least know how to use it. But please, folks, think for yourself. Teach your kids to think for themselves. Because, look, even before AI, right? Even before, in the past 20 years, in the past 25 years, people aren't thinking for themselves. They're just going to the internet and believing whatever and believing whatever they're told by the news or the whatever. So please think for yourself. Thank you so much for being one of my favorite people, Kenley. Really.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
So the book is called The Adventures of AI and the Little Learners, and it'll soon be available at KenleyCVogt.com. That's KenleyCVogt.com. And you can find me at becomeanexorcist.com or thecomputerexorcist.com. Talk to you next week.